You know, it's interesting. There's a study done recently that talks about how actually it's at the college level that a lot of women start to lose their, not their, necessarily their interest in leadership, but start to not see themselves as leaders. So I think one of the things we need to do, and we do some of this already, is I think at the high school level, really encourage young women and encourage leadership, encourage them to take leadership roles. And then I think we have to make sure we follow through with that at the college level, given that that's where we know that something breaks down there. I think in addition to that, a lot of women, I think, politics has become so nasty and so ugly. I think a lot of women are just too smart for that, frankly, whereas I think men, all think they should be president, and I say that as someone who loves men. I think women, find other ways to make change. The other thing, though, is a lot of women are intimidated about asking for money because it takes so much money to run for office. And so that's why there are groups like Emily's List that sort of help women and sort of train them in some of the key elements of what it means to run for office, how to put together a campaign, how to ask for money, so that it's kind of to lower that barrier to entry for women. I believe we will have a woman president in my lifetime, which is exciting as a woman of color to have both a woman and a African American president, like to have lived through that. That's pretty awesome. I think for women, you're seeing more women get into politics. I mean, I remember when I had first got out of college, I was living in California, and Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein, California was the first state to be represented by two women. And now you have so many more women, both Republican and Democrat, in the Senate. And one of the things about the women, and I think one of the reasons why women's leadership is so important, remember that it was the women of the Senate who broke the logjam on the budget issues that we were having last year. Part of that is because part of women's leadership and part of what the women in the Senate do, they get together on a regular basis. They have that personal and professional relationship where they can call on each other and to sort of help get things done. And so I think we'll see more women coming into office, in part because the more women see other women doing it, the more I think we start to think, okay, I can do that too. And also I think we're starting to see the impact of having women both at the corporate level and the Senate and the House, that impact that women have just on the issues that we're talking about or how we're talking about issues. I mean, I thought about when John Kerry became Secretary of State. I was like, oh wow, we haven't had a man in a while. That's pretty cool. So I think the more we see women in those roles, again, I think the more it encourages more women to get into it. I think one of the big things that I certainly hope happens is that we reach a breaking point with regard to the amount of money that is spent in elections. Because it does create such a barrier to entry for, I think, a lot of good people who would like to run for office and who probably would be great, whether they're mayor or in Congress or Senate, or the state legislature, but it's become so expensive. So I hope that, all the outside money, I hope there's a breaking point where the American people just say enough is enough. I mean, we're talking about in 2016, we're looking at billions. I mean, one organization, the Koch brothers, have said they're going to spend $1 billion, and the campaigns are planning on raising, unprecedented levels of money. So I'm hoping that we reach a tipping point and we kind of go back on Citizens United and say, we got to rein this back in, because I think it would mean in the future we would have more wonderful people wanting to get into public service. I would say that as messed up as it seems, as hard as it seems, it actually does matter. And one of my mentors talks about politics as the art of making things possible. And although sort of in the big picture, I think politics has become very partisan and very polarized, there are still things getting done, and particularly at the state and local level. That's where you're really seeing, I think, a lot of innovation in terms of how to solve some of the problems that we're having in terms of, whether it's income inequality, raising the minimum wage, childcare. So I would say change is possible, and do it in, even if you just do it in your corner of the world, that actually matters. It doesn't have to be, I think sometimes people think, I'm going to change the world. That's great too if you can do that, but if you can bring change, again, to your corner of the world, that's going to matter too.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.